featuring this Lotus Flower pendant. And the pendant itself is a enameled blush color brass filigree disc. It's about 24 millimeter, and we sell them in packs of 2. We have them in a number of different colors, and as you do this almost lotus flower earring, this dream catcher earring style, you are going to be needing 2 of them. You can also do this as a pendant if you would want to, a bigger version. We have the filigree discs in other sizes as well as finishes and colors, so keep in mind this technique is just a launching pad for you to take and do what you want. I love all of these new brass filigree pieces that we have and the different ways that I'm able to combine them. So the time of the year that it is, you may not be watching at the same time, but it is Christmas time here as I'm doing this video. And I have in my mind that I want to give everybody something handmade. These are a great idea for somebody in your life that you want to give a nice present, but you don't want it to take a ton of time. These are going to be based on brick stitch, and then I'm going to show you how to drop down and do some fringe. You can make these complicated, you can make them easy, you can go just around the flower, but it still gives that nice handmade look. If you do want to follow along and make with me, underneath the video there's a little date stamp that says when the video was published. Underneath that date stamp there's a little show more button or a little down arrow. You can click on that to get links to the different products that I'll be using to make these lotus flower earrings. So obviously we need 2 filigree discs. These filigree discs again are that brass enameled filigree. They come in sets of 2 and they are 24 millimeter in the blush color. We also have bigger discs in turquoise and seafoam color and all kinds of different ones. So take a look at the filigree section. A little hint, if you are on our website and search for filigree, you'll find a ton of stuff. In addition to those, you're going to need whatever beads you're working with. For this example here, I'll be working with some 11/0 seed beads. And I wanted the 11/0 seed beads to pretty much match because of the person that I'm making these for and have in mind. They like that bohemian kind of look. This is a perma-finish peach coral color in the Toho brand seed bead, 11/0 seed bead. In addition to the 11/0, which is going to map out the outer edge as well as my fringe, I have some pearls. I like that soft look of the boho, but then also adding kind of that classy look of the pearl in. The pearls that I'll be using are 3 small freshwater pearls, so you're going to need 6 total. And then I have 2 millimeter glass pearls. And these 2 millimeter glass pearls, I used 10 per earring, so you will want to have a total of 20 of those. In addition to that, I have some 15/0s that just work as a little trim, and the 15/0s are in the Duracoat galvanized champagne color, which I use a ton because it's not that bright gold, it's more of a muted gold. The whole thing is going to be strung on wildfire beading thread, and I'm using the gray color. Keep in mind when you are doing this brick stitch around filigree pieces, you will see the thread on the inner row. Once you have the thread on, you very much so don't see it. But if you have a darker thread and a lighter piece, you may see it more. So just keep in mind that whatever your thread you're picking, that you will be able to see it. You also have a lot of color varieties and a lot of color choices, in the KO and the Miyuki brand thread. So check that out if you want to try to use a different thread as well. Again, I'll be using the 0.006 Wildfire in the gray color. Because I am using the 0.006 and I am in need of a small needle to go back through those 15s, I am using a size 12 needle. Most likely if you're working with freshwater pearls also, you are going to need the 12 to go back through the pearls 2 times. I also have my cord cutter or thread burner here, which is going to work to burn the thread off the spool. And then when I get ready to put on my size 12 needle, I'm going to have a needle nose plier handy that I can flatten out that thread to make it easier to thread through the eye of the needle. You'll want about 3 feet of thread for each earring. So if you want to, you can do 6 feet total, and then you'll have enough that you don't have to re-put thread onto the needle. Obviously, because it is an earring design, you will need some ear wires. Whether or not you use fish hooks or studs or lever backs, up to you, it does not matter. If you would want to do this style of earring as an actual pendant, you would just need a bail, or you can make one out of beads. To get started, because I've already have one finished, I'm going to cut my thread with my thread burner, get 3 feet of thread on it, and get ready to go with my size 12 needle. I'm going to start by actually pushing off all of the extra little beads here. And the other thing with the filigree is have fun. You can actually go inside to the middle as well and decorate. I thought maybe about doing a pearl in the middle, but decided against it, that I wanted to keep it nice and open to see that nice open lotus flower. So to get started, I'm going to be using my 11 OC beads, and I'm going to make a little pile of those and get ready with my thread. So I have my little disc there and my thread on my needle. All I'm going to do is take the thread through one portion of the actual filigree disc, leaving about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of thread. I'm tying it onto that filigree piece. 2 times will do it. And there I have it ready to go. If you're unfamiliar with brick stitch, you may want to check out some of the other videos on circular brick stitch, since I won't take a ton of time on it. The one thing that you will need to know is that whenever you're starting a row of brick stitch, which we're just doing one the whole way around, you are going to put on 2 beads to start. I'm going through then, after I put the 2 beads on, through the filigree piece, kind of pushing with my fingers those beads against the filigree piece. And then I'm going to take the needle and thread up through the second bead. What that's going to do is make that second bead, the thread loops around the filigree there, you can see. And then that second bead, when you're looking at it, the thread will be coming through the top of that filigree bead and sit on. I'll add my next bead onto my thread, sew through my next filigree area, kind of push that bead up against the filigree piece, and sew back up so you're coming out the top of the bead, making a loop there, which you're going to pull nice and tight, and then that bead is going to stand up end over end. Again, bead goes on, thread goes through, and I take my threading needle back through that bead, make the loop, and pull it nice end on end. So with this filigree piece in particular, you will have sometimes where it does go through the petal of the lotus flower and sometimes where it just opens up on the flower. So you will have both instances. When you go around anything like this and you're doing this brick stitch, keep in mind that you don't want too many beads along the outer edge. You want them to sit next to one another, but you don't want them to be too tight. If they are too tight and you build more and more rows along the brick stitch, you will get a buckling effect. So you want to make sure that as you're building them, they're sitting near each other, but again, not over top of one another. You can also keep going with this brick stitch and do more and more beads along the side. You can also do a double brick stitch where you put on 2 beads and go on and over 2 beads. So you can put 2 beads on at once and do that as well. So as I continue along the brick stitch, I want the beads to sit nice and right next to one another. And you're going to continue this brick stitch the whole way around the piece, going all the way around the outer edge till we get to a point where the beads are going to match. So I've come around to the end here, and I have enough space that I have a little tiny bit of a gap. I don't have enough space to add an 11-0 in, so what I'm just doing with my fingers is kind of moving those beads and that thread over a little bit. As you come back to that meeting point then, what you're going to do is go down that first 11-0 seed bead, create that arch that's going to link them together, go through the form, and then back up through that first bead. So again, remember when we did the brick stitch, we started with 2 beads on at once. That's how you always start your row of brick stitch. And then we're connecting them and coming back up, which is going to force that bead to sit end to end. I've made it the whole way around the form then, and I just wanted to go over the form with you. As you're looking, you'll see 2 beads or 2 threads max between each of the little lotus flower points. Max 1 thread on the lotus flower point, and you can see it's only like every 3rd lotus flower point that I ended up having to go through that point. So just keep in mind, again, you'd rather not have too many beads on, but you want them to have just the tiniest little bit of space around them. From here, if I wanted to, I can easily start my next row, adding 2 beads on, skipping over the bridge threads, and continuing on with my brick stitch. Instead, what I'm going to do is actually create a extra little kind of lacy effect with my pearls and my 15-0 seed beads. To do so, I have those galvanized gold seed beads, and I'm going to put 3 of them in between each of my pearls. So I'm going to continue with my brick stitch, but as I continue with that brick stitch, I'm going to continue by adding a pearl, and then from there, I'm going to skip over one of my bridge threads and go into the other. So the first thing I'm going to do is add one of my pearls, and again, these are 2mm. You can also use an 8/0 seed bead, that'll work. 3 of my 15s, and then another one of my check pearls. I'm going to let those drop down on my thread and treat them just as if I'm going and putting on my next row of my seed beads. Again, I'm going to skip that first row there, and I'm going to go over to the second bridge thread that's linking between the second grouping of the 11/0s. From here, I'm going to ignore the seed beads and just go up through this 2mm pearl. So just like I've been doing with those 11/0 seed beads, I'm doing with the 2mm pearl. So you can see that loop in there that's created. And then again, the pearl is going to sit end to end. 3 more 15s go onto your needle, and you pick up 1 more of your glass pearls. Skip 1 bridge thread and go into the second bridge thread. This is how you're getting that lace effect. You can do this with any type of bead as you're doing the circular brick stitch. Give a nice tight pull, and that lays my second pearl in. You can see here I got 1 too many seed beads, so I'll actually take that out and do 1 less seed bead here since I have 4 along there and I only want 3. And then I'll come back and continue on adding in my pearls. So I have 3 on right now, and I want 7 total at the top. So you're going to continue adding 3 seed beads and then your pearl, skip a bridge thread, and sew through the next bridge thread. Then back up through the pearl and continue on. So I'm adding in my final pearl here, continuing just like I've been doing, skipping a bridge thread, adding my seed beads and my pearls, sewing under the bridge thread, and then back up through the pearls. From here, I get that fun little kind of lacy design. I could continue on the whole way with the design, but instead I'm basically going to step up and start adding the fringe. Very easy. Go down those 3 15/0 seed beads and decide what you want your fringe to be. My fringe gets longer, which is traditional when you're talking about a fringe earring, and I go from 2 to 3 to 4 seed beads with a pearl in the middle. So I'm going to start out with 2. To get that Y effect, I'm going to add 3 beads onto the needle, and these are the 11/0s, then my pearl. To get that little picot trim, add 3 15s and drop that all down next to your project. From here, skip those 3 15s, so back up through the pearl and the first 2 11s after the pearl. Bring your needle out, and you want to give a nice tight pull. Make sure that picot trim creates and forms that little triangle, and then add, after those 2 11s, add another 11, and we're going to our next little section of fringe by sewing through the 3 seed beads that are there next in line. Coming out the next portion of fringe, I'm going to add 3 beads before, and then I want that bead at the top, so it's going to be 4 beads, and I'm going to drop in one of my real pearls. And these real pearls are about a 4 or 5 millimeter. After that, same deal with my picot trim. 3 beads go on, back up through the pearl, back up through my 3 beads. So I'm always leaving 1 bead out of those 11/0s. Give a nice tight pull. Again, make sure that picot trim forms. So I'm just going to kind of play with the thread down there. Pull it because I don't want the extra thread to show, and I want that picot to have that look. Add another 11/0 seed bead onto the next area. The next one, I do a glass pearl as well as a real pearl. So that one is going to have 4 seed beads, glass pearl, 1 seed bead, real pearl. So we have our 4 seed beads, 3 that are going to be together. Then I'm adding on my glass pearl, then another 11, and then a real pearl. After that real pearl, just like I've been doing, 3 beads. And you can make this fringe as long or as short as you want. In the world of fringe, this is actually pretty short. You can also keep going on your second round of this lacy brick stitch and have it start and finish a lot further apart. You can also go back into it and add more fringe if you want to down between the beads coming out on those Y sections. So there's another idea for you. Going back up then, I'm going to do a little tight pull, making sure that picot trim is in there. And again, if you need to get rid of some thread, you can hold that picot trim and then give another little tight pull because I don't want any extra thread in there. After coming out that end then, you get 1 more seed bead on, and then I'm just repeating the fringe, doing the last 2 sections of what the fringe is that I had before. So going on and adding that real pearl and then the fake pearl right here at the end. As I come out the last section, then I'm going to add my 11-0 in, go through the last 2, or I'm sorry, the last 3 15s. Give that nice tight pull to make sure that fringe stays in there. Go up the pearl, and as I go up the pearl, I'm also going to go through the 11-0 seed bead that sits right on the opposite side of the pearl. What that's going to allow me to do is get my thread and needle to the same exact place, and from there then take it to the back of the project, and I'm simply going to tie off my thread. And I'll make sure that this thread end and the knot stays to the back of the project, and that way I don't have any extra thread showing. So I'm just going to tie this down, burn off the thread ends, and then easily put on my ear wire just through one of my loops of my bridge threads near the top. So go ahead and knot that off. Grab your burner, burn down the edges, and then burn them flush along the project. If you want to, you can also use some super glue glue and get some super glue in there. But honestly, with the lightness of the earring, you're not going to have a problem with that coming off. So then I'm going to get to the top of the earring and simply add my loop or my ear wire right in there. If you want to, you could also have used a wire guard or a wire protector in there at the top. You could have also, when you came out the top here, added 1 more 11-0 or 15 or 8-0 rather, to put the ear wire through. So I'm just going to open that up, kind of play around at the top here, get that linked on so that it's going through the thread. I'll then have my fun Lotus Flower fringe earrings completed. 1 more Christmas list gift off the end there. Again, if you do want to get any of the materials to make these, back at the beginning of the video, there's the little date stamp that says when the video was produced, and in that you can get the link to the different products. You can also stay connected with me at potomacbeads.com. Shop for me there, like us, and stay tuned for all of our designs. You can also visit us on Facebook and check us out on Instagram. Facebook, you can also join our group for beading and jewelry making. Also, if you would like to, you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have fun creating, if you get a chance, these fun little Lotus Flower fringe earrings.